For Sunday, the 3rd of April, I'm Randy Courret coming at you live via Apple's Colorcast app and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are downloading today's episode via your favorite podcatcher, thank you so much for the download. On today's episode, we will be talking very heavily about the World Cup draw that took place on Friday. Of course, Canada will be participating in the World Cup in Qatar in 2022 in November. The prodigal son is returning to Scotiabank Arena. Kyle Lowry will play his former club, the Toronto Raptors, for the first time since signing with the Miami Heat. In rapid fire, Formula One is returning to Sin City. Two clubs have, first, there has some controversial comments with regards to a color commentator with regards to an NHL hockey game. Should you be punched in the mouth for skilling it up? That and a lot more. For the second time in WhatsUPodcast history, for lack of a better term, we have three panelists joining me for the roundtable. We, of course, have the veteran, if you will, Tony Antoniou is here. Tony, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Doing great. We have the rookie, if you will. Frank the Frenza is back once again. Frank, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Nice to be here again.
And like Kyle Lowry making a return to Scotiabank Arena, Dan Leggieri is back representing the radio broadcasting program 2004 from Seneca College. Dano, we missed you, man.
Hello. Missed you too, Randy. It's good to be back.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, first things first, though, and I'd be remiss if we didn't have a chat about this. And so very shocking and very sad news out of Ottawa, as Sens owner Eugene Melnyk has passed away at the age of 62. He had a liver transplant in 2015. To this point, there hasn't been an official cause of his passing. Dano, I'd love to start with you. And I mean, any hockey fan can acknowledge Melnyk's passion for the team. He appeared to be brash. He seemed to have severed a lot of ties from front office staff to star players from the Senators, Daniel Alfredsson being one of them. How would you summarize Melnyk's tenure as owner of the Sens?
Melnyk's tenure is probably impossible to summarize in a short thought process. He's not as disliked or even hated by the fan base as, say, Harold Ballard might be in Toronto, but he's definitely a polarizing figure in Ottawa. And like you said, to sever or to burn bridges or to not make franchise players like Daniel Alfredsson feel welcome at every turn, or maybe even invite them to work for the front office, or make every effort that you can to get on his good side, is not going to bode well for Eugene Melnyk's legacy. But it's a complicated one. Over the past couple of days, a lot of sports commentators and people in the press, or even fans, have made mention that if it wasn't for Eugene Melnyk, would the Senators still be in Ottawa? Maybe not. I don't know. But, he definitely helped solidify, keeping that team in Ottawa. And you can't argue that they've had some pretty decent success in the last little while anyway. I know that they're sort of bottom feeders now, and they're rebuilding towards what they hope will be a long stretch of success. And they've got some good players in the pipeline. So, it's sort of a mixed bag. If I was an Ottawa Senators fan living in Ottawa, I don't know that he would be my favorite person per se, but I don't know that I would, welcome a new ownership group as much as I might, if I was someone else. But so I'm sure it's a love-hate relationship for many people in Ottawa. Gary Bettman loved him as an owner because if he was nothing else, he was loyal, and he had deep pockets, and he cared about the game, or at least seemed that way. So, he will be missed from that sense. But I think down the line, he'll just be remembered as the person who
talked a lot.
I don't know. Well, yeah, like the people will side with Daniel Alfredsson in the long run, just because he's their captain. He's sort of their heart and soul for a long, long time. It's just like when when in Toronto there was a big thing with, and I'm pausing a little bit because I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Dave
But there was a
Keon.
guy, Dave Keon, exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking. So in the long run, players, the history will side with the player. They always will. So, I guess it is what it is in Ottawa, but he will be missed to some degree for sure.
Well, it is interesting, and we do have to remember that there was a lot of hands changing ownership with the Ottawa Senators. The original owner, you think of Bruce Firestone, Rod Brydon, and I remember him having press conferences all the time saying he can't afford the team. And then Melnyk comes in. I mean, Frank, I did ask myself if Melnyk was in a different position as other owners of Canadian NHL teams. I mean, the arena was not in a convenient part of the city. I, for one, went to a Senators game in Ottawa on a Saturday afternoon against Winnipeg. It did not sell out. And then there was comments that he made before the 2017 Heritage Classic. He said comments like, "I'm not going to blow a lifetime of working hard to support a hockey team. It's not going to happen." He went on to say, "The bigger question is whether I'm prepared to blow all that money I made over the years in a different industry, in a different country. How long can you underwrite a team?" That started a social media campaign from fans, Melnyk out, hashtag Melnyk out. Sens fans wanted him out, but I do agree with the guy, Frank.
Exactly, man. You're in it to make money too, right? Like, first of all, rest in peace to him and condolences to the family and all and everything. But in the end, yeah, you're in it to make money, and the stadium being that far away does not help the case at all, man. Like, you got to bring it downtown in the core and where everyone can get to it. Access makes it easier for the fans to get to. Like on a weekday, who has an hour and a half to travel to get to the stadium and an hour and a half back afterwards? Like, yes, you're a true fan base, but still, like, you have a life to get to and take care of. That's why downtown Toronto is easy. Everyone has access to it, subway stations, everything. So the infrastructure there doesn't help. But I've always found they were outspoken too much, the Senators group owners all the time and talking. And you don't hear that much from other organizations, and the owners always chiming in all the time and stirring up the fires. And especially to say something like that before a Heritage Classic celebrating the 100th anniversary, I don't know, just poor taste, right? Like, you got to pick your spots.
I mean, maybe you think of like brash ownership, not really having a lot of controversy. I mean, I can only think of one off the top of my head, and that's Mark Cuban. I don't know about you guys, but there definitely seem to be a lot of people packing their bags because of Melnyk's positions on things. But, Tony, apparently the team is now left with Melnyk's two young daughters. They're young adults, like 21 and 19. Who knows what their intentions are with the team. But I mean, you take a look at a league perspective, and look, cynics, it's easy to say that the NHL and Gary Bettman, all they care about is money. He's licking his chops to get one team out of Canada, maybe move it to a place like Houston. Do you think the league sees an importance to having a franchise in the nation's capital?
I think so, yeah. And Gary Bettman, he doesn't want to actively move teams that he's helped establish in markets because it makes him look like a failure. So that's never something Gary Bettman's interested in. Some of this stuff that Melnyk would say in the past, it's posturing, right? This is a political game too. He was playing this game with the city, trying to get an arena to move downtown. This was not exactly a cash cow for him, the Ottawa Senators. So there was a passion for him. What a lot of people don't realize too is the imprint he's had on junior hockey in the GTA when he was owning the St. Mike's Majors. I mean, he affected junior hockey in this area as well. Now, it didn't take off like it does in other smaller towns in Ontario, but I think they'll come to a resolution. There'll be a new ownership group in Ottawa. It's going to stay in Ottawa. And I hate to say this because the man has passed away, but it might pave the way for a downtown arena a lot easier, because the relationship he had developed with politicians down there was rocky, to say the least. So this might pave the way for the downtown arena that the Senators are looking for with him out of the picture.
If Phoenix is staying in Phoenix, Ottawa's not leaving, man. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix is playing in a 5,000 seat arena for the next few years, which is about right for them.
I know it was 25 years ago, but if I'm not mistaken, it was Bettman who was in control when the Nordique moved to Colorado and when Winnipeg moved to Phoenix. If I'm not, I'm certain that Bettman was still commissioner of the league. I am wondering, like, and I'm not playing devil's advocate for the sake of it being fun. Like, I am wondering if there is more of a desire to have franchises in the United States. I mean, yeah, sure, they could get more money from expansion fees and so on, but I don't know. Like, is it easier to get the approval, or is there more of a desire? And obviously, we're speculating, but that's what we do on this podcast.
Doubtful, very doubtful. It would have to be. I think it's an absolute last resort. Like I said, Gary Bettman is not a fan of moving franchises. I don't think many commissioners are. I mean, you're talking about franchises that he didn't help bring into the league, that he had no tie to the Quebec Nordiques because he wasn't responsible for expanding them into the league. He wasn't around them, right? So him moving the team to Colorado in the 90s was not that big of a deal for it. But now these are his franchises, right? Well, actually, hang on a second. I think John Ziegler was commissioner when Ottawa and Tampa got their franchises. So
yeah, okay, yes, yeah.
Fact check. Yeah. But I don't think he knows how touchy Canada is with their franchises. I don't think he wants to mess around with that.
No, and to everybody's point of maybe looking at a downtown arena, if you've been to Canada recently, you'll see that downtown is coming to Canada. Like, they're building a whole community, a whole, city 1A outside of Ottawa. And Ottawa is a sort of a tricky downtown to be part of as well, where, majority of it is empty most of the time because a lot of government workers live down there, and there's not much of a nightlife, at least not compared to some of Canada's other bigger cities. So I can see them building a long-term home in Canada and moving the people out there rather than trying to move the arena into the city proper. So, I sort of alluded to before, I think that, for all of Melnyk's flaws, and Tony mentioned it too, like there are some bright spots in his legacy and in his ability to, help build the Ottawa Senators to what they are today. And they're never going to be, a big time market franchise just because they're not in a big time market city, but they have the support of being so close to Montreal and so close to Toronto, or close enough that, people won't mind making a weekend trip up there. So I think the Senators are in a good position as long as they don't go all little big league or rookie of the year on them and have these two run the team, which may be entertaining in and of itself, but could be a disaster. So we'll see what happens as this moves forward.
Yeah, no, Dano does have a point that, and it sounds like that, Dano, you've been to Canadian Tire Center. What the hell is it called now? Yeah. And Frank, Tony, I don't know if you guys have, but
I was there.
Yeah. So
traffic is terrible there. So no matter how you slice it, you slice it, I think there isn't downtown is where you want an arena to be. In my opinion.
And to that, you have to think that there's a lot of value to having a downtown arena. I mean, could they build a like an entertainment district beyond the market in Ottawa? And not 100% sure where LeBreton Flats is to the downtown core, but it does seem like that there is a lot of desire to have that arena built closer to Parliament Hill. So guys, we'll step away for hockey for a moment and talk about the beautiful game. For the first time since 1986, Canada will be participating in the Men's World Cup. I can recall being at my first men's national qualifier. It was for South Africa 2010. It was ironically against Jamaica. And it was an experience that I just was so enamored with. This is an event that the entire world participates in. With Frank and Dan being of Italian descent, Tony being of Cypriot descent from Cyprus, me being from Sri Lanka. I took a look at the FIFA World Rankings, and I believe Sri Lanka is in the bottom 5 of the world in men's soccer. So I take that with a lot of pride. But never did I think that Canada could qualify for the World Cup. Like, seeing countries like St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and yeah, we were beating them 4-0. But then reality sank in, and here we are. And Tony, I know you've been to a number of qualifiers. You and I went to a qualifier together. What did that qualification mean for you?
Oh, everything. Like it's a sports dream come true for me. You watch your team win Stanley Cups, World Series, NBA championship, but I was always cheering for some other country. Like I'm a huge fan of the Dutch national team. So that's the team I follow, but it doesn't feel the same because it's not your country. So, it was a massive moment and I wanted to be there. And it's exactly how I pictured it. A cold day, a snowy day. It's kind of like how you remember when they clinched against Honduras in St. John's back in 1986. It was dreary, it was raining. It was just a perfect day. The moment for me, honestly, when they substituted Atiba Hutchison on, you knew the game was over. I was so confident once they scored the first goal. I thought, okay, there's no way Jamaica's scoring 2 goals. We got this. But when he came on, it was like, what is this salty discharge in my eyes? Like I got emotional because it made me think of Dero and Julian de Guzman and Craig Forrest, Thomas Radinsky, Lyndon Hooper, Rowan Ricketts, Simeon Jackson, McKenna, Peshka Salido, and Corazine and Stalteri, and all guys who have put that jersey on in the past. And then I've gone to watch, like I've been to games at Varsity Stadium. You remember the Sir Stanley Matthews Cup that they played back in, I think it was late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. It was a 3-team tournament against Greece and Chile, I believe, which they ended up winning. These are moments that, I've been a part of. I was at BMO Field a few years back when 4 Cuban guys defected right before the game.
I was there too.
Were you at that game? Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
And they scored that trick play off of the free kick. They surprised everyone and just sent it across the box. And I think Dero set the record at the time with that goal, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
I remember a play like that, but I thought it was Dero to Hutchison. But I think that was a Panama game. So I'm probably thinking of a different goal.
Okay. Regardless, that's what it means to me. It was those moments I've had enduring, getting through the Honduras loss 8-1. You thought that's it. You're never going to support this team again. And but I don't stop. I never stopped just following these guys, following their careers in Europe to see how it's going. It was just such an emotional feeling for me. I'm not going to lie. I was just standing there quietly with, tears coming down because this is what I dreamed of, right? Like you want to see your country in the World Cup, and we're getting to see it now.
Well, and I, for one, don't remember Mexico 1986, and I surely don't remember the qualification, especially the qualification clinching match in St. John's, but it didn't really have the soccer up until maybe USA 94 didn't really have the scope in this part of the world until that point in time. I mean, that being said, and going back to the men's team, Frank, how the hell did this happen? It wasn't that long ago where Canada was struggling to they didn't qualify for Russia, obviously. They went to the semis of the recent Gold Cup. There's the growth of soccer is obviously so evident, but in your opinion, was it because MLS came to Canada in 2007, starting with TFC? You got to think that the women's team has inspired a lot of people, especially with Christine Sinclair being one of the best in the world. Is it John Herdman, the coach? What do you classify? What do you think this is the result of?
That's pretty much everything you've been saying. It attests to all that. Like John Herdman is a huge factor for this team, and like from what he's built in previous teams, he's always been winning. So like he's got that pedigree. The players we got now, they're playing more all around the world. It's not just in Canada or North America. So we got that exposure on the big stages. You know, Alphonso Davies, one of the top players in the world. Hopefully he comes back to better health and, you know, can have his stamp on this team. I just think it's a bunch of everything. But growing up, and we can all attest to this, growing up, soccer's always been prevalent, right? Like we've always grown up in soccer, playing soccer, and these young kids, it's no different for them. They grew up in the system. They grew up playing. The training got better, more exposure. Like you said, MLS, the Toronto being an MLS has helped them a lot and bringing more awareness to Canada and the players that are available here and the talent we got. Like we got our parents, everyone's from around the world, man. We got the talent here, but it's all come together now. And I think we have a legitimate team. Like, straight up, man. I don't know. Anything can happen. It's 90 minutes a game, man. Anything can happen.
Well, I mean, you know, Frank, it's so ironic that you say that, you know, we all grew up playing soccer. Full disclosure, I didn't. Okay, I didn't. I mean, you know, I do remember there was a recognition of Alex Bunbury, you know, when he was qualifying and trying to qualify for Italia 90. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think Canada was close to qualifying for USA 94, but I mean, you know, 25 years ago, who the hell could remember stuff like that? Closer to 30. But
even like those guys,
you know,
like the Stalteri and the Bents, like I those guys went to my high school, man. So
well, Hutchison went to my high school, yeah, and I actually had
Tejan Buchanan, my little cousin, played with him when they were 7, 8 years old. Like
well,
it's unreal to see all these players now, and it's like where we've come from. It's phenomenal, man.
I think there's more academies now. There's more room for development. There are a lot more facilities available. And when you mentioned John Herdman and his staff, they've managed to unearth these guys who've been transplanted for a few years. You know, there was never an expectation that they would play for Canada because they kind of moved to those countries and stayed there and trained there. But they've like Stefan Eustáquio was a massive example of a guy they managed to get here to commit to play for Canada, who was 100% devoted to just playing in Portugal, training there. He was born here, but you know his dream was to just train, develop, and so they've managed to get these guys and convince them to come, and it's helped so much. Vittoria as well, Ukbo, he had options, so they've been tremendous salesmen as much as they've had, you know, coached this team, and it's been a miraculous turnaround.
So Dano, of course, the last time you joined us for a podcast was immediately after when Italy won the European Championships. If you could take a look just to beyond my left shoulder, you could see an Italia flag, which I do wear proudly. My in-laws are Italian. Of course, Italy did not make the World Cup, and maybe we'll chat about that in a moment. But you know, Italy, of course, qualifying for the World Cup, you know, was pretty commonplace. I mean, all joking aside, I mean, like the last two World Cup, whatever. But but you know, you've experienced your side winning the damn tournament, but now the country where you were born in is a part of the biggest tournament in the world. You know, how much different does Canada qualifying for the World Cup compare to your experiences following the Azzurri?
It's strange, to be honest. You know, and we've had these debates. You know, if you come from a sports family, or you know, if you've got family members that follow sports, which I'm sure we all do, you might have had this debate at some point in your life where, you know, should Canada and Italy play each other in the World Cup? Who do you root for? And the answer always comes back Italy, because it's Italy's sport, right? You're sort of you're conditioned, you're brought up following and cheering for the Italian national team just because Canada didn't have a footprint in any of these sort of these international tournaments. But then if you ask them if Italy and Canada play in hockey, who would you cheer for?
That's
And
right.
the answer 100% of times is Canada, just because, again, Canada is the better team. They probably have a better chance of winning. They're more, they're more known for playing that sport. So, to find myself in a position now where I'm of Italian lineage, but I was born in Canada. My son is born in Canada. He's more Canadian than he is Italian at this point. So, to find ourselves in a position where we're approaching we're coming off of a European championship, for Christ's sake, and we can't even qualify. Italy doesn't even fucking qualify for this tournament.
I still can't figure that out.
Right. So, I used to always tease whether it was Portuguese or Brazilian people because they seemingly had this this reversible flag come World Cup time where if Brazil got out, they could just unzip it and zip back up to Portugal.
I didn't even think about that. Oh,
do it, Dano. This is your chance. Let it all out.
So now we've become those people, right? I feel like I'm just jumping Italian ship because they stink. They can't even beat fucking North Macedonia.
Let it out,
Canada's
baby.
qualified, right? But to the points that were made before, unless you've been a soccer diehard fan for years and years and years, and you know the names that Tony rhymed off, and honestly, I'm familiar with some of those names, but I don't know them intimately. It's hard to just say that. I don't know. I don't feel the same sort of passion for Canadian soccer than I do for Italian soccer, and maybe that's just because I spent so long, in houses where people don't speak English, and and come World Cup and Euro time, it was always such a big deal. And having seen them won both those big tournaments at an age where I can actually appreciate it and feel that emotion and join the celebrations, I can imagine. And sorry, I'm just gonna go sideways for a little bit.
Please.
My mother-in-law buys my son a soccer jersey for his birthday every year. Not one that's going to fit him now, but one that she thinks he'll appreciate, 10 or 15 or 20 years from now as a collectible. And every year she asks me which jersey to get. And normally I go with the person who wins the, I don't have good European language inflection, wins the Ballon d'Or or the
Ballon d'Or. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So normally, he's got a Modric jersey, he's got a Ronaldo jersey, he's got a Messi jersey, he's got an Mbappe jersey. But this year, trying to see the landscape for what's to come, we told her to get him an Alphonso Davies jersey because he's at that age now where he just turned 6. He's going to see Canada play in the World Cup for the first time, and for him it's normal. And then Canada's going to be in the next World Cup as well because we're co-hosts. So for him, Canada not being in the World Cup is more foreign than it is them being in the World Cup. So, I'll be able to latch onto his emotion connected to it because he doesn't know any different. And again, like I said, he's more Canadian than he is Italian. But it's strange right now. Like I honestly don't know how to feel. I'm super embarrassed and upset that Italy failed the way that they did, but I'm super proud and excited to see Canada play in this tournament. So, maybe my thoughts and emotions become more clear as we head into November, but right now it just feels strange.
Well, and you bring up a good point, and I'm kind of interested if you guys could sort of fast forward 30, 40 years from now, maybe the three of you will be grandparents. And as you guys are born and raised in Canada, our parents' generation, that emphasis of our ethnicity will not be as prevalent as it is now, right? And I'm never, ever, ever going to say that North American soccer is going to trump soccer from Europe. But as leagues develop more, women's soccer leagues develop more in North America, the Canadian Premier League is, it's getting a little bit of traction. I'm looking forward to the season opener at York United when they play Halifax, I think. Frank, I mean, is it possible, Dan, Tony, whoever, chime in, like, is it possible that maybe your kids might appreciate Canadian soccer a hell of a lot more than the four of us because, it's so brand spanking new here?
Well, like Dan was saying before, it's what you're brought into, right? Like you're brought into, I was always watching Italian soccer on Sunday mornings. You hear that song whenever a goal comes on, dun, 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 like you was on, right? You know what I mean, right, Dan? Like
Yeah,
that's what you heard every Sunday morning. Every 10 minutes, you heard that go off. So it's just what you're born and bred into. And I grew up watching Italy soccer. So that's all I knew. I didn't even know English soccer. I didn't know Spanish soccer. I didn't know, it was just the Serie A, right? So, but my kids now watching me and like, watching me last against the game against Jamaica, watching that so intently, and like I'm like after the game, even after the game, I'm like, stop, like quiet guys, just keep quiet and just watch this right now. When the drumming, when you seen, you know, hold on, the crowd, like keep quiet, crowd, and just everyone getting ready to do that. And it's like I'm like, just this is the best part of the game. It's not even the game. I'm like, this is what I want to see, right? And so hopefully that showing them that and them seeing that and how happy it made me will make them happy and wanted for them to watch it. So. That's Rand.
Sorry, go on.
Go
I don't know how much my girls will get into sports and stuff, but I've taken them to a TFC game, and you know, admittedly, and it's partly my fault, they haven't been steeped into the tradition that I grew up in, right? I grew up speaking Greek, never learning like Greek. They haven't been steeped into it. Yeah. You know, my mom tries. My mom speaks Greek to them, but I don't. So you're right. They're going to be ingrained in the Canadian. Like they watch me go to TFC games. I've taken to them. So they might grow up, and if they're into sports, they'll be more TFC than they will say Manchester United or, you know, Juventus or, right? Like it's based on what we watch. And I think they will be more into Canada and Canadian soccer if they choose to follow sports. I think it's 100% the case, because I think as we get older, you know, when our kids has kids, we're probably going to lose more and more of our culture if you're not on it, if you're not teaching them. And like I said, I'm partly to blame for that, because I didn't marry a Greek woman. So it, you know, it's very difficult to do it. But I think there's something to that for sure.
There might be an inherent challenge though, like it's something that sort of expands outside of sports in Canada, where if you ask somebody to define a Canadian, like what does it mean to be Canadian? There's not a good answer. We don't have a, you know, the cultures that Italians or Greeks do, or the traditions, or even the culture, or the food, or the music, or, you know what I mean? There's we have the Tragically Hip, but you know, there's not this, you know, this centuries old traditions of let's say, you know, Frank, like making tomatoes every August or September. Yeah. There's nothing Canadian like that.
Hell, so, I do that.
You do that too, and it's great, right? But but there's no one tradition that, you know, says, you know, my Canadian ancestors did this for hundreds of years, so we're doing it now. And that's always a struggle to identify with Canada when it comes to sports, because because we're so diverse and we're so eclectic, and you know, and that's part of the reason why soccer is maybe taking off now, because it's taking immigrants, you know, 40, 50 years to show Canadians that, you know, soccer is the beautiful game, and that's why it's the biggest game internationally. You know, hockey is so part of our lifeblood here that it'll be hard to overtake. And I know what you mean, Tony, like where if your girls grow up watching TFC, they're more inclined to become fans of that team. But truthfully, if they're not good, and if the Canadian national team is not good beyond this group of players, then that fan base will fall off, just like it does with any other sport. So, you know, if they can maintain and keep growing and, you know, win a game in the World Cup, you know, qualify consistently and, you know, continue to produce stars like Davies or David, you know, it'll go a long way to help define that Canadian identity, to help build that passion from within that. You know, if the four of us tried to describe it, we probably have a hard time, because Frank, like you said it, Tony, you said it, it's just, I was just born into it, you know, so it's just part of who I am, whether I like it or not. You know, and our kids will develop their own sense of identity just from being born into, you know, whatever situation they were born into.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the reality is that Canada just has such a different identity than, you know, 60, 75 years ago, right? I mean, like our parents, my father came to this country in 1969, my mother in 78, whenever your parents came to this country. My father-in-law came here in 55. And you look at those days to today. Yeah, what is a Canadian? I mean, take a look at the four of us, right? Like, we are as Canadian is, and we are at that same first generation level. And more and more Canadians, and we're just so immersed, especially being living in the Greater Toronto area, that we can go to Little Italy, we can go to Little India, we can go to Greektown, Danforth, and the rest of the world is just at our fingertips in this town, in this community. And
but that's part of the problem too, Randy, where because there's so much option. I remember vividly listening to my father-in-law, God rest his soul, when the Toronto Star would come or call his house just to do a generic survey of, sir, we know that you're a subscriber, we want to know what you think about our service, and him going off on this poor kid for a half hour, how there's not enough soccer coverage in the sports section, where it's all elites and it's all Blue Jays. Because I don't give a shit. I want to see Juventus and I want to see Real. So fighting to get soccer to even become part of the conversation, took a long time. To sort of have those traditions or have that passion, become part of their Canadian identity as well. So it takes time, and I'm happy to see that it's having a moment. And I just as a soccer fan, I hope it continues.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there's always been the argument from producers of radio stations or sports TV stations that, there's not enough of an audience for it, so we can't have the discussion. There's not enough of an audience, so we can't put it in the front pages of our papers. And I always wondered if that was the truth, right? Because we're such a melting pot. And again, you talk about Canada and what do they see us at? I think the image of the polite, nice Canadian, I think it's real. I think it exists. I think they look at us like, this melting pot of inclusion and freedom, despite what, the narrative is that we're a garbage heap of a country these days. But I think that image, I think that image is there and it's real. But I also think what you've added as Canadians, and we've had, the attitude of the Canadian soccer team is kind of going to help that, is that there's a bit of a swagger to us too. We're not sorry for being in the spot. It's not just about hockey. I hope the basketball program gets there, eventually as well. But we're seeing it all around the world slowly but surely. So you got to create a mindset. I think that's what John Herdman's helped with too. Do not underestimate the amount of belief that he has instilled into this group. A lot of it is so much up here, and they're starting to believe it when they're going to Honduras, when they're going to Panama, when they're going El Salvador. They're not defeated before they step on the field anymore. But anyway, I got off
holding them. Sorry, Tony.
I think we have an audience for this stuff if you just keep it on your programs. Have a half-hour session in the midday show talking about soccer, and I think people will listen to it, want to listen to it.
Back to what you're saying about Herdman. What I heard him say the other day is, this is the team that has brought us to Qatar, but doesn't mean that's a team that's going to be in Qatar.
Oh, so for sure.
Be on your toes, be ready, because things can happen, things can change. So a next player up, and just that mentality is awesome.
It's a way of keeping the players not content and understand. Oh, yeah. We could see Petrasso and Roddy in Qatar. Mm-hmm. Make no mistake about it. If these guys continue to improve and get better, he's not going to shy away from bringing them on the team. And his confidence, he's telling you we're going to score a goal in the World Cup too. That permeates throughout. And I hope soccer fans watch that. My first exposure to swagger as a Canadian was Donovan Bailey. When he won the gold medal in 96 in Atlanta, it wasn't just about a Canadian winning the gold medal. That is the first time I think I saw a Canadian athlete with absolutely no fucking humbleness attached to him. Like, I'm the fucking man. I won this. I deserve this shit. And I loved it. We needed that as a country. It's been a long time since we've had that.
Well, yeah, and I think it came to stay after Vancouver 2010, because we were top of the podium for gold medals.
Great point.
There was an incredible a video essay by Stephen Brunt, who is my favorite sportscaster, I think we just came alive after. Was it after Alex Bilodeau's first goal or gold, or was it Sidney Crosby's golden goal? Who really knows? I guess we could think about that, in the days, months, years to come.
Yeah,
But
it's just that whole Olympics in general. You're right, man. Big. That's a huge point you just made, man.
Yeah. We could definitely go on and talk about this, and it's such a great conversation. I do feel that we should maybe move on to a little prediction that we had developed, and that was what projected group of death could be for Canada. We before the draw of what actually took place and who actually Canada will be facing in Qatar. We developed what Canada's the toughest group of death would be if Canada was to participate. So, if Canada was a part of that group of death. So the four of us picked Senegal as the team from pot 3, and 3 of us had picked Germany. However, Tony picked Holland. He had mentioned that he's a big Dutch supporter. And from pot 1, as Frank and Tony picked Brazil, Dan picked France, I picked England. So the four of you, just very casually, I mean, what do you think stands out amongst our choices? Obviously, I don't want to spend a heck of a lot of time about this, but do you think there's one team, one choice that maybe stood out a little bit more than the others?
Senegal. Germany's always up there too, right? Like Brazil, I don't know, man. It's tough.
I mean, what German side are we going to see? I mean, they did have 2 losses in World Cup 2018. They made it to the round of 16. They lost. Did they lose to England? I can't recall off the top of my head. But what kind of England are we going to see? Like, is it possible that maybe they could recapture what they were close to having in Euro 2020, which was in fact in 21?
Well, your question was, what would be a group of death for Canada, right? So I based it on the team. Like Senegal is the dominant team in Africa, and I think Senegal matches Canada with athleticism, speed, and they both have those abilities to just counter the shit out of each other. So that would be a tough matchup for Canada. And you look at Brazil, who's been dominant in their South American qualifying, and the Netherlands. The reason I picked the Netherlands was because of trajectory, right? Germany is not on the way up. They're kind of now where you have Brazil possess the shit out of the ball. The Netherlands play a similar type of game. Those would be challenges for Canada to take the ball off them and get their opportunities on the counter. So that's why I kind of put some thought from a technical perspective, why they would be tough matches for Canada. So that's what I based it on. I don't know what you're going to get with England. Some people tell you England's, the most talented English team since '66. I think they have a lot of players that fail in big moments. So I'm not as convinced with the English team. So that's kind of why I based my pick on that, just to make it quick for you, Dan. Sorry, Randy, because you told me to be quick. That's what.
No. I mean, like that's a figurative sense. Whatever. I mean, it was
a host, and I want to do what you're asking us to do.
Oh, stop it! You're making me. You're making me blush. But I guess in the end, as the draw had come and gone, and we'll get right into that Canada has drawn with Belgium, Croatia, and Morocco. As we were talking about groups of death, I just absolutely love that term. I'm going to start with that. But I mean, like in terms of if there is one for this upcoming World Cup, Tony, do you think there is a quote unquote group of death for World Cup in Qatar?
Again, I studied it. I looked at it closely. The closest thing I came to, and again, I wouldn't call it a group of death, but Group H with Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea Republic. And you expect Portugal to get through, but those 3 teams, I think, are so close, tight, that it's going to be a battle. And I think Portugal's capable of losing to, like, being upset. We've seen it before. So there's capability for an upset. I always value the African teams when they come to these tournaments, because I think they cause trouble for the more technically sound teams. I think they have the ability to disrupt you a bit from your flow. Korea has dominated Asia for a number of years. They've got one of the best players in the world in Son, who plays for Tottenham. So those three teams, I think it's going to be a very tight battle for that next spot. And I expect Portugal to go through, but that's the closest thing I came to it. I mean, I looked at the other groups, honestly, and you kind of think it's a foregone conclusion for like England, and pick a team. England's going through. Is the US good enough to go through? I don't know. Spain and Germany, you can see them going through, right? But it's the World Cup. There's always going to be an upset in the World Cup.
Yeah, but I don't think there's like really an actual prevalent group of death. Usually there is. Usually, like you see one, you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely it. But I don't see one this World Cup. I just don't.
It's funny because I immediately thought that Group E was the group of death. After the two pots had finished, I mean, Spain and then Germany were in Group E. Then Japan was picked, and the out of pot 4 would be the winner of Costa Rica and New Zealand. You're thinking that Costa Rica would defeat New Zealand, but who knows? Dan, is there one team one group that you think might be the toughest of them all?
Dan doesn't care.
No.
There's no Italy.
Really. Truthfully, from a Canadian standpoint, our draw couldn't have been much worse than it turned out to be. So if you're Canada, you look at your group as maybe the group of death, because getting past Belgium and Croatia is going to be it's going to be really, really, really tough. And then the other groups, you guys kind of alluded to it, where the group with Spain and Germany in it, but then outside of that, you expect those two teams to go through. So there isn't a group where all 4 teams have, a legitimate chance of getting through. So I think they're pretty balanced, which should create for a lot of great round robin games. But short answer, no, I don't think that there is a quote unquote group of death this time around.
Well,
it's also because there's more nations. Sorry, Randy, right?
Yeah,
like if it was still a 24-team tournament, you were guaranteed to get 3 UEFA teams in some of those groups, right? So if you have 3 UEFA teams and then you get, a Uruguay in the group, then you're looking at a real group of death. But, with the expanded amount of teams, it's going to be harder.
Well, that being said, and now let's take a look at the CONCACAF, the rest of the CONCACAF participation. You have USA in a group with England, Iran, and the winner of Ukraine, Scotland versus Wales. So, I mean, there's 3 possibilities there. Mexico's in a group with Argentina, Saudi Arabia, and Poland. And then the mentioned Group E. Canada's Belgium is ranks 2 in the world. Croatia made it to the World Cup final. It's not a cakewalk, and it's so amazing that I'm hearing, especially from soccer reporters and those on TSN. It's like, Canada could make it out. I mean, and Tony, you were talking about how much you respect the African side. I think Dan's onto something here. I mean, I don't think that Canada has an easy out. And I think maybe, very quickly, maybe Group C, maybe Mexico's group might be easier out of all the CONCACAF groups.
Yeah.
It's a tough draw. It's a tough draw because Morocco is a good team too. They got players who play for big clubs. Like Hakimi is an elite right back in the world. He just moved from Inter Milan to PSG. They've got an attacking midfielder by the name of Hakim Ziyech, plays for Chelsea. He's on the outs with the national team, but if he figures it out and gets in there, like if he somehow miraculously appears at the World Cup, another tough player to play against. The only thing I say that could work for Canada is Croatia's core is an aging group. Belgium have the ability to once again come up small in big game situations, but that is usually not until the knockout rounds. So to try and catch them off guard during the group play, it's a tall order. There's just way too many incredible players on that team. But again, John Herdman has this team believing. So to me, it's a positive. It's a test for them. It's going to make them stronger for 2026, right? I think their goals should be to compete, to score, and then let the chips fall where they may. But absolutely, it is a tough group. I'm with you. Like, I know it's not a cakewalk, not even close.
I guess I just didn't see it before. Just being happy that Canada was there, but actually, like examining them now, it is pretty tough, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do we expect Canada to finish in this tournament? I mean, hey, we're finally at the cool table with the rest of the cool kids. We're going to a World Cup. Dano, for somebody who tasted the sweet sense of victory and had the what you experienced in 2006 and 2014, 2021, excuse me. What level of satisfaction would you have for Canada's performance for this tournament?
Truthfully, if they score a few goals, I think it'd be great. 2006 and 2021, when Italy won World Cup, Euro Cup, they weren't supposed to win those tournaments. So Frank said it before, where you got to play the game. I like this Canadian team. A lot of their success is going to be measured on or based on if Alphonso Davies comes back and starts playing the way that he can play. If Jonathan David can, continue his magical skill set that he's exhibiting in the French league. But I'm a PSG fan outside of international soccer, and this is a team on paper. Tony, you mentioned Hakimi, where they're supposed to walk over everybody. They've got arguably one of the greatest front lines ever assembled in soccer. Matched with a goalie that was supposed to be the next coming of Christ, who after winning the Euro can't win a game now. So anything can happen. But
by the way, as an AC Milan fan, I'm glad that worked out the way it did, because I love the goalie we have now.
And that's why Milan didn't want to give him $10 million a year.
That's right. Go on. Sorry.
I get it. But you know what I mean? Like, so, I think objectively, even the most hardcore of Canadian soccer fans, if they put up a good fight, they don't get steamrolled like they did in '86, where they don't score a goal and they just sort of fade out into obscurity. If they put up a fight, maybe draw a game, or if Davies or David or somebody else scores a highlight reel goal, it's just another building block to keep the momentum going with this team. It's like we talked about before. You're in a good position now. You've put in a lot of hard work to get to the point where you are now, whether it's recruiting players or training them or building a system or a culture or an atmosphere, and you can't take your foot off the gas now. You have to almost, you don't have expectations of winning this tournament. So if you get out of the group, then you far exceeded what anybody thought you might do, and then you build on that for 2026, where you go in wanting to take that next step, where you want to win a game, where you want to exactly. So it's great that they're there, but we can't just rest on our laurels and say, okay, let's just go there and run around for whatever 90 minutes times 3 is. I'm not a mathematician, but we would just want to see some level of some sort of semblance that we belong in that tournament, and I think that'll go a long way in the minds of Canadian fans.
Well, so sorry to cut you off there, Dan, but because we are live on Apple's Colorcast app, I actually do have a comment from somebody who is listening to our show, and it's from so this is the first time we're actually getting a comment on What's Up the Sports podcast. So so it's a handle, and it's a smooth milk.
Here. Look at it.
I'm going at the scene like this is the happiest.
You're blushing again, Randy. You're blushing again.
I am.
It might be Rich and Sal from the Stern Show. You got to be careful. Let's read the comment first, and then we'll judge.
No. Yeah, 100%. No, So he said, "You guys suck." No, it didn't. So it says, this is from.
I wish that's what it said.
Yeah. So it said, love the soccer talk. Being in the United States, most people really don't care about the World Cup, which is a shame. I honestly think the U.S. will not make it out of group play. That is from Smooth Milk. So they have handles on this app. Mine is RC Milton 83. Not a lot of people know me as Randy. Cat's out of the bag. Colorcast. My name is Randy. But yeah, Smooth Milk. Thank you so much for the comment. And yeah, it is.
That doesn't, man. It's crazy.
And that doesn't surprise me about a U.S. soccer fan. I mean, if you follow it closely, I think they've been very disappointing in the eyes of soccer fans. I think you've expected more because of the talent they have, and guys are sprinkled all over big clubs. You know, Chelsea, Juventus, Barcelona. I don't know if they've got the right coach for that team. I think they need a guy with a little more experience, but I'm not surprised that, you know, an American soccer fan has that kind of attitude. I think it's been pretty disappointing for them watching this team.
So as we go on here, and of course we know who Canada is now playing, there is a possibility of not so much a possibility, there will be matches organized, friendlies, as we get that much closer to World Cup. Frank, I mean, as Canada plays Belgium, prepares for Belgium, Croatia, Morocco, how important are friendlies to teams that may have a style similar to who they're playing against? Obviously, it'd be a real shock if teams organize a friendly with who they're facing before a World Cup. But do you think that will help Canada maybe play Italy, for example?
You know what, Randy, those friendlies, you're not giving it 110% like you would on when it's a meaningful game. So how much can you really look into it? Are they bringing all their star players? Are the players going all out? Obviously not. So the game is a lot different, right? The friendly games doesn't mean it. There's not much meaning in it. Just the conditioning, getting the overall atmosphere, getting accumulated with the other players, getting up to that level, that kind of stuff. Yes, but in terms of actual players going all out and making an impact for them to be better for the World Cup, I don't see that happening.
Tony, Dan?
Yeah, I was just it'll be good for them to at least get exposure to these more established teams. Like, you know, if you think about matching up against Belgium, you know, outside of their individual skill set on that team, you know, this is a team that, you know, just even the way that they approach the game is different than most teams in CONCACAF. So, you know, to just to be exposed to that sort of, positional play, possession type game, European soccer is much different than MLS. So I think it'll go a long way for some of the guys that play in North America exclusively to, you know, have that, just have that exposure to. It's almost like I liken it to an AHL player being called up to NHL, and they always say the same thing where the game is just faster, stronger. You know, it's the same game, but it's just elevated. And I think, you know, being exposed to that along the way, you know, and maybe walking all over Italy as everybody does these days will give them confidence as well. And then that was a joke towards Italy. If you guys caught that. I got it. So yeah, I think, you know, to Frank's point, you know, you take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is because it's not the true representation of, you know, what the game can be. And, you know, you might not have a full team, but I still think it'll benefit them leading up to and, you know, and sort of gearing up to the first World Cup game.
It feels like it's important to John Herdman because when he was in the TSN studios on World Cup Draw Day, he talked about potential for 2 games, 1 game for sure here, and he really wants one in UEFA. He wants one in Europe against the UEFA team. So I think it's about bringing the group that he sees. I think by the time he gets to September, he'll have a better idea of the group he'll have for Qatar. And so he definitely wants to get them together. And whenever the next window is, I'm saying September, I'm just, you know, using it hypothetically, but he wants a game in Europe. So I think he's taken that one very seriously. He's trying to set up against a good European opponent. I'm not sure what he's looking for here when they play a game here, but it seems like it's important to Herdman.
Yeah, it's also important for them, like the Canada team, just to get together, right, and build that camaraderie and
of course
be equivalent on the field and feel each other out and know what's going on and who's where. So obviously to build for the own team, yeah, that's huge. So anytime they can get together, it'll benefit them for sure.
Yeah, the summer's going to be a big year for a few of the players. Like Jonathan David could be gone. He could end up on an even bigger club. I know he'll be sought after. those are moments for players. Those are tough times. So it's a huge juggling act for John Herdman, and he tells you as much. The amount of work that goes into this off the pitch, we can't even begin to imagine what it's like.
As I was watching the draw and its proceedings and the pageantry of it all, I was wondering to myself, what does this mean for hockey in Canada? I mean, look, I'm never going to think that hockey is going to be threatened as being removed from the top sport in our country. But 2017, TFC wins MLS Cup. The Raptors win the championship in 2019. The Blue Jays are threatening to be a potential World Series favorite this year, maybe next year. Could we see a participation drop within hockey?
Yeah, I think that we're of the last generation to grow up, especially if you grew up in the GTA, to see a good Maple Leafs team, and you've already seen people drop off or become Edmonton fans, or start playing soccer or baseball a little bit more, and it goes beyond just watching a good team. Hockey is very expensive to put your kids into, especially if they're not good. I mean, like it's one thing if you know that they're ultimately going to make it and sort of look at it as an investment almost. But if you just want your kid to have fun and be on a team and learn a sport and not just be on the streets, hockey is not a viable option. As a parent of a 6-year-old, I can speak with from experience that we've turned towards soccer and basketball and baseball because they're more accessible. They're not as consuming on your time either. Hockey is just it's crazy. So if
we're not as dangerous either. I mean, Dano, you got to think about the injuries and such too, right?
Yeah, of course, for sure. So if we're the last generation to I grew up playing hockey and the Leafs were good and everything, hockey, we might know in 20-30 years if hockey is still going to remain as top sport, and everything always changes. So I'm not convinced that it's always going to be hockey in Canada, but it'll take a long while for it to be unseated as number one. Should things keep going the way that they're going, where even looking at it as music, we haven't had one international super group for a long time, just because accessibility to music is much different than it was when we were growing up. And it's the same with sports. So, you can watch a soccer game more easily now online than you could 20 years ago because it wasn't on TLN, as Frank said. If it wasn't on Sunday morning on TLN, you weren't watching it. So, you have exposure to this stuff, and the more kids get involved with it, we may see a generational switch in what the popular sport is in Canada.
I always use this as the gauge for me because my nephew's mid-20s now. He's a 94 born. So I always see him and his group of friends, good dudes, makes me feel young when I hang out with them sometimes. They're all into soccer. They don't know shit about hockey. If they weren't in fantasy leagues, they're all soccer. My nephew is a coach. He coaches, he's got his, licenses up to a certain point with his buddies. So they coach East York soccer. They're all into soccer. All of them. That's all they know. That's all they do. So I see that as the gauge to where we're probably going to. I've used the Tim Lywicki reference, what he said a few years back when he was running MLSE, that don't be surprised that based on demographics that you see this shift 20 years down the road where basketball will be bigger than hockey. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. It's still doubts, but when you have a World Cup of soccer, the most watched sporting event in the world, and your country's in it, it's such a big deal because hockey doesn't have that. Like, I don't take the World Cup of hockey seriously because it's on every, 12 years, 13 years, depending on when they feel like putting it on, they're going to put it on.
But Tony, they also have a world championship every year in Europe, and it's during the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It's not best on best, right?
No, it's not.
So it's It's huge in Europe and wherever who's ever hosting it, but it's not the same thing. It doesn't compare, right? The Olympics, yes, the Olympics are a different story. But again,
did you even watch? Did you even pay attention to the Olympics this year? No, right?
Sometimes the NHLers go, sometimes they don't. When they don't go, we don't give a shit. So and like I said, this World Cup is a joke, in my opinion, when you're not consistently having it every 4 years.
World Cup of hockey.
If you want to legitimize the thing, keep it consistent. When's the next one? In 2026? At least they're getting rid of the Team Europe and North America bullshit and having real countries playing it. So that should be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with Dan. I think Dan's 100% on the whole pricing thing. I couldn't afford to put my kids in hockey.
Yeah. Frank, I mean, you have 3 boys. What have they been introduced to hockey at any level or?
No. Well, the pandemic definitely stopped things, right? So when it happened, my oldest now is 9, so he was 6.5, 7 when this whole started. So obviously 6.5, 7 is when you start bringing them into the sports, and I was ready to throw them into soccer. First thing is soccer, right? That's just the first thing was soccer, and that didn't happen. Hockey, they haven't gravitated towards yet. So who knows? Maybe that is because it's not prevalent anymore as it used to be. When I got into hockey, I think I was 8, 9 years old. In terms of watching hockey, playing hockey, my parents never enrolled us. I learned how to skate on my own, right? On the ponds outside with the construction areas. That's where we learned how to play hockey. That's how it was back then. But Tony, Dan is saying, to bring them now, it's expensive. You got the training, you got the 6 a.m. practices and the equipment, and they want to be a goalie, which I am in ball hockey. And who knows if they want to be like me, even the goalie equipment, it's expensive, right? I don't know if I'd be able to do it. So, but no, they haven't gravitated towards it. And if they want to, okay, I'll, take it up with them. But so far they haven't, which is good for my pocket.
And we do have an interesting take on
tennis. Tennis they're into.
Yeah,
right?
Hey, I mean, look
tennis
at
is growing too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, could Canada win a medal the next Olympics for basketball? And Canada's been a mainstay in terms of women's soccer forever. So it would be interesting to see. And we're going to talk a little hockey in our rapid fire segment in a few minutes. But guys, look, the perceived greatest Raptor of all time is returning to Scotiabank Arena. Kyle Lowry's Miami Heat will be playing the Raptors. The first time Lowry will be playing in Toronto after signing with Miami before the start of the season. Tony, in terms of all the major pro sports when it comes to our city of Toronto, where does Kyle Lowry rank amongst the greatest to don a Toronto jersey?
I think he's capable of making the top 10. When you talk about overall talent, there's been a lot more. But in terms of, bulldog effort, actually staying with the team for a long time, which is not something we've been used to as Raptor fans, longevity. So that's a huge factor. And ultimately winning the championship, I think he belongs in the top 10. It took a while to get there. I mean, he didn't come in with the greatest attitude, and it wasn't always the rosiest of relationships between him and the organization. But they wouldn't have won the championship if Kawhi Leonard wasn't a Raptor. I mean, let's be real here. But Kyle was a big part of it.
And it's just so amazing that you say that maybe Lowry is in the top 10. It is a statement that I agree with. However, this is a guy that stayed in Toronto for 9 years, won a championship, was an all-star 6 times. How long did Doug Gilmour stay? And, how long did Roger Clemens stay? I don't think he'll be considered in that list, but what kind of accolades did Roy Halladay have as a Toronto Blue Jay? I mean, he did win a Cy Young, never made the playoffs. Dano,
But sorry, here's the
Yeah,
thing.
go, please.
I'm going to interrupt. Here's the thing. Gilmore was one of the top 5 players in the league during his years in Toronto. Roy Halladay was arguably the best pitcher in baseball during his years in Toronto. Who's the other guy you mentioned? Sorry.
Clemens, Roger Clemens.
Clemens, back-to-back Cy Young awards, elite. So it's about where you are in the league. Austin right now, arguably the best goal scorer in the NHL right now. I mean, I'm sure Ovi fans will say, screw you, but he leads the league in goals, right? Kyle was never, I don't think he was ever the top 5 point guard in the NBA at any point. Am I wrong? Like, someone correct me if I am. I don't think so.
Top 5. I don't know. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, being a 6-time All-Star was. Sorry, Frank. Go ahead. Frank.
It's just the way he played and the way he just gave 150%, not even 110%, which everyone usually says. Like, he gave that extra, right? Like, he would go in that lane, take that charge, no matter who that player was, just to get the foul. Like, put it all on the line for the team. He put the team in front of everything, and it paid off in the end, man. He's a grabber.
He did it. He did it during All-Star games. I mean, exactly. But Dano, Dano, during that time as Kyle was part of the Raptors, how much of a draw was he specifically? When people had Raptor tickets during Vince Carter's reign, they wanted to see Vince Carter. They wanted to see Kawhi Leonard. When visiting teams come into Scotiabank Air Canada Center, they wanted to see LeBron James, Connor McDavid. They wanted to see Mike Trout, for the Jays. David Beckham when he was a part of the Galaxy playing Toronto FC. However, like Frank and maybe Tony was saying, that Kyle Lowry, he was a lunch bucket guy. He got his hands dirty. He drew the fouls, which, Toronto fans seem to love.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, to be honest. We love these guys that aren't necessarily the most skilled, and the way that we treated, or the way that we remember Matt Sundin might be representative of that. Yeah, and I agree with Tony. Lowry is sort of he's an interesting one because he was never, tops in his spot. He was never, regarded as a superstar in the league, an all-star for sure, but he's not on Kevin Durant's level of superstardom. But people love him, and it's the same thing. This city's experience with the Tuckers and Ty Domies, Tiger Williams. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And a lot of the names that you guys talked about before. I hope this doesn't take us too far off course, but those were all white males. So, him being a black man, I don't know what that does to his standing or the way that people viewed him, or if he became. If he elevated himself to must-see TV in Toronto, definitely loved and appreciated for his hustle and his effort. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Tonight will be. I'm sure he'll get a huge ovation tonight.
Sure.
But down the road, is there a statue of Kyle Lowry coming? Probably not.
I do think so. I think so.
Unless I think if they put together what the Leafs have, which is Legends Row. Yeah. I think you put it in that. But if you're putting a standalone stat, and it was funny, they were having this argument on Overdrive, which was hilarious. I was, because Jeff O'Neill was just pissed at Hayes for being so stingy when it comes to when it comes to statue building. But so I kind of agreed with, hey, if you're going to do a Legends Row type thing, then you can. But a standalone, I don't see it, and I don't agree with the race thing really. Dan, because I think if Kawhi Leonard chose to stay here and see the rest of his career out as a Raptor, I think if Vince, see, the difference between Lowry and those other guys is that he wanted to stay. Everybody else wanted to leave, so we'll never know. I mean, can you imagine if Vince Carter finished his career as a Raptor? You don't think he would be regarded as one of the top 2 athletes in the history of our city? Look how we look. We still look at Jose Bautista in this tremendous regard. I would imagine you're putting him in a top 5 category. I just think it was it's a Toronto thing. Wendell Clark wanted to stay. He loved being in Toronto. Darcy Tucker was the same way. Ultimately, the difference was that our superstars, the elite guys that we had here, none of them wanted to stay. So we'll never know, right?
Yeah.
And they just happen to be black. I don't know if that's a connection or not, but we didn't get a chance to enjoy them for their entire careers or for a huge portion of it. I mean, we did Vince, but Vince's departure was based on him demanding to get out. Yes. And whether you like to admit it or not, he quit on the team until he got the trade he was looking for. So
and it hurt more because Vince was our guy.
And it hurt. Yeah, absolutely. I think if Kyle's was, I think if Kyle was one of the elite point guards in the league, if he was in a Chris Paul category, for sure, absolutely, he'd go down as one of our greatest athletes.
Well, I am going to say right now that I think top 3, one of them would be Pinball Clemens.
Are you being sarcastic or?
No, I'm not. I mean, this is a guy, and it depends on who's a part of this poll. But if maybe if you're north of our age, he's a recognizable name.
Yeah, it's obviously. Listen, you could put Sebastian Javenko. You should, right? The dominance he had, and if you're going to talk Pinball Clemens based on the league he was playing in, then we have to put Sebastian Javenko in the same category, Josie Altidore, because these guys were absolutely dominant in that.
I put Joe Carter in there. I put Bautista in there.
Joe Carter, and you got to put Robbie in there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Robbie, to me, Robbie Alomar is still the best player I've ever seen for the Blue Jays. Like, as a Blue Jay fan, I still think he's the best Blue Jay ever.
Yeah, that's little sidetrack. That's a great man. I really want to get into this one too. but
Pinball is an awesome citizen of the city.
Yes,
tremendous, and such a great guy. And I've met him on a few occasions.
I met him once
working, and it's genuine. What you see is not fake; it's actually real. Like he's a super guy. But obviously, it's tough to put a CFL player on that list for sure. If you're talking about the whole scope of him being a part of this city and a citizen, absolutely.
Very quickly, Frank, Lowry the greatest Raptor of all time?
In my opinion, I think so. Most important, it's tough, man. Carter did his thing here and put Toronto, elevated them and put them on the map to have people recognize who we were here. But I think just Lowry, for everything that he did and winning that championship, everyone's like, oh, we had Kawhi, so we won it. But I don't think this team went anywhere without Kyle. I don't think so. He's the piece that put everything together, and he accepted what Masai did. He accepted the trade, and he was on board on it. Like in the beginning, he might not have been, but somewhere along in that season, he changed his way, and just everything came together. And I think no matter what, that team did not go anywhere without him and everything he brought for the team.
And actually, guys, lo and behold, we have another comment from Smooth Milk, and he says that where was that comment? I lost it. That Vince Carter definitely would be. Kyle would be a second, I believe. It's so weird. He did write something. I swear to God. I'm not imagining this. Here we go. Vince Carter for sure. I would put Kyle Lowry second. And, I am of the opinion that Kawhi Leonard is the most skilled Raptor in Toronto history. I think that DeMar DeRozan is the most loved Raptor. I think Kyle Lowry is the most accomplished as a Raptor. I think the greatest Raptor is Vince Carter. And I hate saying that.
Based on talent, what he gave us,
based on talent. Oh, sorry, please.
No, yeah, absolutely. I don't see this. The discussion is: are we talking about pure talent, 100% best player we've ever seen? Sure. I mean, even Kawhi, he doesn't have the flash that Vince Carter had, but Kawhi is the best all-around player, in the game when he's going and he's healthy and everything's going for him. But yeah, no, for sure. I don't think anybody's wrong in this argument because, again, Kyle Lowry is, he's like a third line centerman. He's a checker. He's a shit disturber. He's a bulldog. It's just a different kind of game he played. He was never an elite point guard in terms of top 5 or some, was he top 10 ever? Maybe, I guess. Again, help me out here. It's
hard because every team, like when in team sports, right? You got like hockey, soccer, you got the 5 guys, the hockey, basketball, you got the 5 players on your team that are the most important pieces. So you have your Kawhi, you have your Serge, you have your Green, you have your Pascal, you have Fred. But who was it that kept that thread together? It was Kyle, right? And like, for example, just take a little bit off subject, you bring it to the Leafs. Like, so you have this team you got Matthews, you got Marner, you got hopefully Campbell does good in net. You got Giordano now for defense. You got hopefully Muzzin's back healthy. But who is it that is going to elevate this team when we need it most? That's the question we need answered. For me, Kyle did that for this team. So for me, he's the greatest.
Yeah, no, it is a great discussion. Sorry, Tony.
I don't believe they win the championship with DeMar DeRozan on the team still.
No, absolutely.
I just think, and the reason why Kyle got over it is because he had no choice, right? Like he realized, all right, my best chance to win a championship is going to be with this number 2 guy here if he's healthy and going. Yeah. So, but I think because of longevity and commitment to the organization, I'd put him on top. I just put him on top just for sentimental reasons because he gave me more at the end of the day than what Vince did, based on the exit. Right? I can't overlook that. I'd retire his number before I retire Vince.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only reason why you would retire Vince's is because of chronological order, the fact that Vince is now retired and that he's been. But in terms of what Kyle Lowry had officially brought to the organization, especially that championship, meant is such a great deal. So as we are doing this podcast, Dan has been in a parking lot as his son was taking part in a class. Dan does have to get going, but Dano, really great to see and talk to you again. Hope you and yours are doing great, and really hope we could hook up again soon for another episode.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Randy. Sorry I can't stick around to talk about how much of an idiot Tyson Nash is.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a moment for sure.
Bye, Dan. You guys have fun with that. See you guys. Thank you.
All right, cheers. That being said, we will go to our rapid fire segment. It is big deal or no big deal, no big deal. Tony Antoniou and Frank de Frenza are with me, and shout out to Dan for bringing this to my attention as Tyson Nash is a former NHLer who is now doing color commentary for the Arizona Coyotes. So the Coyotes were playing the Anaheim Ducks, and Coyotes veteran Jay Beagle took it upon himself to cross-check Trevor Zegras in a 5-0 as the Coyotes were down 5-0. Tyson Nash's comments was due to the fact that Zegras has a great level of skill apparently, and should be expecting to get that kind of treatment if you are apparently showing up the other team. His Nash's comments specifically, that's the problem with these young players. You want to embarrass guys, you want to skill it up, you have to be prepared to get punched in the mouth. Tony, you had mentioned that you had a discussion about this with a friend of yours the day before. Is this a big deal or no big deal?
Well, it's only a big deal because it's such a stupid, idiotic, archaic comment from a guy who had no skill. I mean, congratulations, you got in the league, but you wouldn't understand what it was like to have what Trevor Zegras has. And this hockey culture thing, I mean, I'm an old school guy too, but I'm also a believer in, hey, we gotta go with the times here as well. there are a lot of skilled players in this league. And I think moves like that are awesome. And if you can do it, and if you have the balls to do it, you shouldn't have to answer for it with a fight, or a teammate shouldn't have to have his face just completely mangled because the hockey culture says you can't do that. Like, I mean, thank God Don Cherry is no longer working, because I would love to see what he had to say about it. And I'm sure John Tortorella will have something to say about it. I mean, God forbid skilled players display their skills in the game. This wouldn't happen in the NBA. This wouldn't happen in football. They're doing everything they can to protect the quarterback. They protect the stars. This is the only league, and it's not because of JB, it's because of the hockey culture. And I don't know how it's going to change. I don't know when it's going to change. But when we, you think about what we talked about in the previous segment, where the demographic is going, where we're following sports more. That's part of the reason why younger generation will look at this and say, what the hell? Like, wait a second, I can't watch a skilled player be skilled. Some guy might beat the shit out of him because he made a great play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm going to watch basketball where I could watch, Trae Young be Trae Young and Ja Morant be Ja Morant without getting hacked. Yeah. Right?
I agree with you.
Actually, before you comment, Frank, I remember watching, however, Inside the NBA, and when the Lakers visited Cleveland to face the Cavs, LeBron James had an incredible dunk over his former teammate, current friend, Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal's comments were, this is LeBron James's return to Cleveland. If I was Kevin Love, and I'm paraphrasing, if I was Kevin Love, I would let him get the lane and have the dunk. Tell me Shaquille O'Neal would not have tried to do everything he could have to stop, said player who is making his return back to his home stadium. It seemed that Shaquille O'Neal or any star does think that there is a level of respect that you do have to give the LeBron Jameses of the world. But, Tony, there's no chance that anybody does that to Sidney Crosby. There is no chance that nobody does that to Connor McDavid. I don't think. Frank,
you want to Sidney Crosby. You got punched in the back of the head, concussion.
No, I think they do. I mean, I think
Crosby hit was from behind in the back of his head, and he went down and had his concussion and hampered his career, man. Hurt him for like 2.5 years.
That's against Tampa, right?
That was the outdoor. That was
that was
the elbow from the tall guy, Steckel, was it?
It was David Steckel, and I still believe that was an incidental hit. Yes. Like, I don't think it. But there was a sequence during one of their playoff series against the Blue Jackets where Callahan, who he's had a feud with throughout their careers, cross-checked him on the ice twice in the back of the head, just you can see it, the back of the neck. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. Like, this is nuts. No other league would allow it.
No.
If Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby tried that lacrosse goal, someone would come after them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone would come after them.
Yeah.
I think it's 100%. It's the hockey culture, right?
It's so funny. I had a discussion with a guy who was a few years ago, who was 10 years younger than me. And we were talking about fighting in hockey. And, I was for, the lessening of fighting in hockey. That kid who played minor pro hockey for Whitby died on the ice. And this guy, 10 years younger than me, said that I don't understand hockey. And I lost it. I was like, I was going to games in Maple Leaf Gardens before you were born. You understand? And, Tyson Nash scored 64 points in 374 games. And you're telling me that hockey teams and the hockey culture is to water down the success of somebody as a potential superstar like Trevor Zegras? Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see these guys. You want to see this talent. You want to see what these kids can do. Connor Bedard coming up. This guy's he is nasty. His hands are filthy. The moves this kid got, and what? I don't want to see that? Of course I want to see that. Right? So what? We have to worry that some guy, a goon's going to beat him up for doing a nice move? Too bad. You got undressed. Take your lumps and go and, try and stop him the next time. right? Pick up your jock strap, put it on, and try and stop them the next time.
Well, I've always said this argument time and time again is that if a city has a team with the most fighting majors versus the team with the most points in the league, chances are they're going to go watch the team with the most points. So, Tyson Nash, I think you're definitely in the wrong on this one. Bringing it back to the beautiful game, guys, there's a proposed new site for a new soccer specific facility right by Woodbine Racetrack, which is, I guess if you want to put it in a geographical sense, northwest of downtown Toronto. It is the potential home for York United, who is a part of the Canadian Premier League. Frank, it's apparently an 8,000 seat stadium. And as mentioned, a legitimate training ground for soccer. Is this a big deal or no big deal?
Oh, big deal, man. Huge. Like I was looking at the link that you sent and the outline of the layout of it looks awesome, first of all. And to have a state-of-the-art facility for training and developing, like obviously, more exposure, more games, more money coming into the system, flooding into the system. It helps us, helps develop the players. And you're talking about kids, 10 years old right now, they're going to benefit from this, right? The development of these kids coming up, it's huge, man. Huge exposure. Soccer exposure is alive in Canada, man.
Tony, I guess with everything that we talked about of soccer versus hockey, you think of comments like Tyson Nash, and you have to wonder if parents like yourselves are going to say, you know what, this is a culture I don't want my kid to be a part of. Soccer seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's all on the table for sure. And in addition to cost and what is best for your kids and what your kids want to do at the end of the day is the most important thing. But I agree, the more the merrier. As many opportunities and facilities available, accessibility to young soccer players, I think this could benefit the women just as much because, playing in a packed 8,000 seat stadium looks better than having 8 to 10,000 people in a 20,000 seat stadium.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it works for them. The more the merrier. This is part of the reason why Canada has risen so quickly in terms of their national team. The men, anyway, the women have been good for a while, is, academies, facilities, more money being poured in. So, you know what? The more the merrier. It's nothing but positive.
And finally, guys, Formula One has announced a stop in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to go to Sin City for the first time in, I believe, 40 years. And part of the track will be the famous Las Vegas Strip. There was a Netflix series. I, for one, haven't watched it. Apparently, it was quite intriguing. And Formula One will be making its way to Las Vegas. Tony, is this a big deal or no big deal?
Well, you've picked the wrong guy to ask a Formula One question to. I'll tell you that because I don't watch a second of it. But Vegas, I know how huge F1 is. I understand that. The only thing I know about F1 is that when it's in Montreal, when it was in Montreal, a few friends visited Montreal during those F1 events. They were good times. So that's all I know about it. But Vegas F1 sounds good.
Frank?
I'm all for it, man. Everything's bigger in Vegas, better in Vegas. I like you look at these tracks around the world and how cool they are. And, being on the strip is awesome and the lights and it looks cool. So I'm all for it. Not a huge Formula One guy, but getting into it a bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
So listen, guys, our big fan Smooth Milk did actually ask us a couple of questions. They're asking us professionals, us analysts. I don't know how you want to determine three scrubs like us, but he did want to know what our thoughts are in terms of Edmonton and Calgary for the Stanley Cup and for making the playoffs. Smooth Milk wants to know, what do we think of the Oilers and the Flames? Are they going to have a successful run in the playoffs?
I think they have a chance because the West is way weaker than the East. But I mean, Calgary's been the dominant team in the league pretty much wire to wire. They got off to a little slow start, but they're one of the best teams in the league. But I think there's a real chance for Calgary for sure. Edmonton, why not? I think the path to the Stanley Cup final is a lot easier in the West than it is in the East.
I'd agree with Tony. I just don't think that Edmonton's goaltending will bring them to that next level. They might get around maybe, but I don't see them going to conference finals or the Stanley Cup finals without different goalies than Koskinen or Smith. So.
And he also did ask, what do we think the chances are for the Maple Leafs in terms of getting out of the first round?
Stanley Cup champions.
There it is. Yeah, that's right. So Frank and I are Leaf fans. Tony, for as long as I known him and many years before, pledges his allegiance to the Pittsburgh Penguins. But you do have an appreciation for the Leafs, Tony. I saw you at a Leaf game, ironically enough, in Montreal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those were fun times too. We used to do bus trips every year when we were younger, organized by my cousin. Great times. You know what? They have a chance to get past the first round. Of course they do. I think they're good enough. They just have to get over themselves, right? They have the biggest leap the Leafs need to take is the one that stands in front of them, which is themselves. How ready are they to play a playoff style game? I've seen flashes of it. I think they are capable. It takes a lot of patience, and it's tough when you have a really, really talented team, guys with a lot of skill. It's ingrained in you, right? You want to try that extra move. Sometimes you got to pull back when you're playing in the playoffs. So we'll see.
I've been trying to analyze this team all year, and they make it very hard for us to do that because against the top teams, they play phenomenal. Against the bottom half of the league, they play horrible. So how do you?
So that could be a good thing for them going into the playoffs because they're going to know how to play against those teams. The Penguins have the Penguins, I don't know what they are because they still think they're the 2016, 2017 Penguins, and they're not. They can't play an up and down run and gun style like they were used to do. They got away with it back then. They can't get away with it now. Mike Sullivan always talks about playing the right way, and sometimes they shy away from that. So it scares me come playoff time. Can they bear down and focus? Because they've had trouble doing that since their 17 Stanley Cup. Totally different team. Their core is older, right? Your core is much younger, so the skill level is there, but how prepared are they to play playoff hockey? So if they're doing better against the better teams, that could be a good thing for them going into the playoffs. The East is so
give me Sidney Crosby any day. I'll take it, man. I've said that to guys many times over the years, and like anytime it comes up, McDavid, I'm like, no, give me Crosby any day of the week, man.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the fact of the matter is he's older. He's played a lot of hockey.
I'll still take him. I will still take him.
Oh, me too.
Would you? Okay, so Frank, would you have taken Fleury? Marc-Andre Fleury? 3 Stanley Cups did he win?
If you're comparing him to Mrazek, yes, I would rather have Campbell and Fleury other than Campbell and Mrazek, 100%.
So who's your starting goalie? Campbell or Fleury? Because honestly, I mean,
I would go Fleury because Campbell, I just haven't had faith in Campbell, man.
I think that Fleury definitely has the resume. He wasn't that long ago where he took the Vegas Golden Knights to the final. Well, I guess it was it 17? So maybe it was 5 years ago. So Father Time is catching up, but does Jack Campbell have what it takes to lead?
We'll find out.
To the first past the first round. Yeah, we'll definitely find out for sure.
I have one question for you guys. Since you guys were both at a soccer game when they qualified, how was that drum? Like, how did that feel when the whole stadium just stopped and that happened?
Tony, you want to?
You know what? The drum thing is cool. I was never a fan of the stealing the Iceland chant, so I never take part in that. I don't do that. My moment for me, like I said, when Atiba came on as a substitute, I looked at his career and how underappreciated he's been his whole career, like not talked about. 39 years old and being a part of the team that makes the World Cup when a lot of guys he played with in the past didn't get to experience that. That was my moment. That was when I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's happening. But yeah, I mean, the drum part and Jonathan Osorio seem to go hand in hand. We were used to hearing it during MLS Cup final too when they won. So that wasn't as big a deal for me as that substitution and of course the final whistle.
Yeah, and actually, I echo Tony's sentiments with regards to the Viking clap from Iceland. I don't participate in it because I think that we
it's a
ripped it
ripoff,
off.
right?
Yeah, it's a ripoff. I mean, it's not. I don't know what the historical significance is, but I don't like doing it. I've been to a ton of national matches at BMO Field, like from St. Kitts and Nevis, like I said, St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia, Cuba, Panama, a couple times. I went to pretty much all of the qualifiers that were in Toronto and Hamilton. Those days in early, like 2009 and what I guess it was 2013, 2012, like that was not a raucous Canadian crowd. It was raucous, but I mean, it was a bunch of new Canadians and first generation Canadians who are cheering for their where their roots came from.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the only bad component to how beautiful the diversity is in our city and country. I mean, I'll take all of the diversity that we have rather than having a 100% unanimous Canadian sports crowd. So
what makes it so special here, right? Like,
absolutely.
But you can see when there's something to cheer for, there's
100%.
If there's something to cheer for, which is what we have now, you're going to see it. Like it was the most pro-Canadian crowd we've seen in Toronto ever, but there was a reason for it because that was a World Cup qualifying clinching game opportunity for them. I think Soccer Canada did a good job on how they sold tickets too. I mean, you had to be part of the red and white club. I paid the $50 membership just to ensure that I get my first crack at it. I mean, the Voyageurs on Facebook, they were going after people who were putting them on sale.
Yeah.
Just out of fear that they would end up getting snatched up by the opposing country and stuff like that. So, I mean, everybody made sure that we had a pro-Canadian crowd that day.
It's so funny, Tony, because I was at the Cavaliers game at Scotiabank that night when Canada played Costa Rica, and there was a guy who's a season seat holder that was sitting behind me, and I had my Alphonso Davies jersey underneath my Raptors jersey, and no word of a lie because I'm a loser like that. But this guy was like so disappointed and so pissed that he wasn't able to get tickets for Sunday's game against Jamaica, and I said straight up, I'm glad how they did it because there was a lot of people, the two of us, people of the Voyageurs supporter group who invested a lot of money in tickets for the qualifiers for Russia, for Brazil, for South Africa, and Frank, for your original question there, it was just a culmination of all of the opinions, in this country, of all of the influence coming from other parts of the world, in my opinion, that all of the immigration and everything that have taken place from Europe, from South America. I mean, there's a lot of South Asian kids who play soccer as well because it was that much affordable, and you're seeing it now. And take a look at this squad. I mean, you have Haitian representation with Jonathan David. You have Trinidadian representation with Atiba Hutchison. Liberian Ghanaian representation with Alphonso Davies. Ecuador from Jonathan Osorio. And that's what this team is about. And it's beautiful to see. And I'm as my father-in-law and my in-laws are Italian, as much as I cheer for the Italian side, like my country is now in the World Cup. You know, for the first time in my cognitive
Our
life.
country, our
Like,
country.
yeah, but I'm talking about me. But but I mean, I don't remember World Cup '86, and the fact that Canada is a part of this, the most incredible tournament in the world, it's everything. It's absolutely everything.
Awesome. It's huge.
Yeah, you know what? I'll if I can say, like,
Of course, please.
Sports has always been about bringing people together, and that's what I love about it. That's why I'm very, like, it's one of the things I love. We live in a time now where we have, you know, between politics and media, there's always an attempt to divide people. They're setting narratives to divide people all the time, and that's why I hate when politics gets into sports. I mean, it's unavoidable, but I hate when it does it, because at the end of the day, in its purest form, what happens Sunday afternoon is a bunch of people, like Randy said, different diversity, different culture. I took one of my coworkers with me who's a staunch Jamaican supporter. Every time we're sitting at lunch at work, that's all she talks about is how great Jamaica is. And we always tease each other. And I told her, you know what? I'm going to bring you to the game. You could wear whatever the hell you want, but be prepared to get chirped at the end of the game because you're not winning. And she was still cheering for Canada, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, those are the special things about sports that in its purest form actually brings people together. And I love that feeling. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
So guys, this has been an absolute blast. Probably one of the longer episodes that we have done. It's especially when with the topics that we covered, it's there's no three better people to have than yourselves. Shout out to Dan for doing an hour and a half in a parking lot. It's not really the warmest day out there. But to you, Tony, Frank, as always, the pleasure is mine. Let's do it again soon. Okay.
Good. Yeah, man.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Take care.
All right.
For Tony Antoniou, Frank Frenza, Dan Leggieri, who I'm sure is on his way home after picking up his kid from gymnastics class. I'm Randy Kure. This is What's Up the Sports Podcast. Shout out to the Abatsy Project, Mike Abatsides, for the great track, Oh, What a Night, which you could find as you are listening to this podcast via your favorite podcast catcher. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping safe. And we will talk to you next time.